Welcome to Daily Pulse, where we keep your finger on the pulse of the latest breaking news and the news they're keeping from you. Brought to you by the Vigilant Fox and Zeee Media. I'm your host, Maria Zeee. Tonight, warning, net zero is still making huge leaps in the United States and across the world. A whistleblower has been fired after exposing a huge scam, and surprise, surprise, James Comey assisted the New York Times in creating fake news. Let's get into the Daily Pulse. On Monday, we reported to you that the smart city agenda is coming like a freight train, and the US is absolutely on board. We told you about how Canadians are being threatened with $20,000 fines for going into nature. Those fines have gone up well over $100,000 now, actually. And we told you that this was coming to every country, including the US. It's important to understand that anything to do with surveillance, much of AI in governance, monitoring your movement, energy usage, digital currency, digital identification, even weather modification, all of these types of things are all part of the same agenda. That agenda is to lock you into a smart grid, eventually forcing people into 15-minute cities where everything they say, do, and even think is going to not only be monitored, but also penalized depending on their compliance levels. It's a social credit system, far worse than anyone could conceive or believe is happening in this country with the current administration at the helm. But what you'll find in our report today is that this is very much happening in both blue and red states. Now, we want to start by telling you about a new bill in Massachusetts. Senate Bill S-2246 sets the stage for the government to not only track how many miles you're traveling, but potentially charge you for your miles traveled and ultimately limit the miles you're allowed to travel in future. Lauren Fixed Car Coach on TikTok explains. Let's take a listen.
Massachusetts is quietly pushing a bill that could fundamentally change how Americans are allowed to use their vehicles. Yes, you are hearing that clearly. Senate Bill S-2246, introduced by Senate Majority Leader Cynthia Cream, sets the stage for a future where the government tracks and potentially limits how many miles you can drive each year. This isn't a fringe proposal. It's working its way through the legislature right now, and similar ideas are being tested in other states across the country. This is not a federal law. This is a state law. And at its core, this is not about transportation or emissions. It's about power and control. So what is actually in this bill? The Massachusetts legislation proposes the creation of a new government entity. This is state-based, not federal, that would track every vehicle mile traveled. They're calling it VMT, and they implement these policies to reduce them over time. In other words, less mileage allowed. Now, while the bill doesn't yet impose mileage caps, it does instruct state agencies to create a reasonable pathway to cut how much people drive annually. Translation, a government-mandated limit on personal travel is no longer hypothetical. It's being drafted right now. Now, Bill 2246 in the Senate also outlines coordination with automakers and the use of vehicle inspection data to monitor individual mileage. It even suggests changing to urban planning, encouraging the development of walkable neighborhoods and fewer parking options, all with the goal of getting you out of your car, whether you want to or not.
So as you heard there, she explained that within Senate Bill S-2246, the inclusion of urban planning was made, and you heard what she said about that. That, of course, translates to smart city. We've reported to you about this website before, but we'll show you again because it's a very important resource for everyone. The site is globalcovenantofmayors.org. And if you search our cities on their site, select the country you want to view. For the purpose of this broadcast, we'll show you the US. It will show you how many cities are on board for the smart city agenda already. And you will see there we have Alameda in California, Aurora, Illinois, but then you also have Birmingham, Alabama. You have Flagstaff in Arizona, and of course, Lexington and Medford in Massachusetts, which makes sense considering this law. But you also have places in Florida. You have Utah. You have red states on here just as much as you have blue states on here. Texas. There are 7 pages of cities all across the US on that website. Now, she also mentioned in the video that other states are trialing this also. We want to show you this one article about Massachusetts specifically, and then we'll tell you who else is doing this. This is from carscoops.com. This state may make you pay for every mile you drive. Supporters say Massachusetts' Freedom to Move Act could cut car use and aid 2050 net zero goals. It says that if you drive more, pay more. Americans all over the country already do that via taxes on gasoline, but one state is considering taking the concept to a whole new level. Some Massachusetts lawmakers think drivers should be taxed directly according to the number of miles they drive, and a new bill could be this first step. If the Freedom to Move Act becomes law, it won't immediately kickstart a mileage-based tax program, of course, because if it did, there would be uproar, so it has to come in stages so that people don't notice too much. But it will give lawmakers a framework that might make those kinds of taxes a reality further down the road. And the article says, asking high mileage drivers to pay more isn't just a money-making scam, advocates say. They think the US state needs to radically reduce car use if it's to meet its tough emissions targets. Massachusetts has pledged to achieve net zero emissions by 2050, and experts think that's not going to be possible unless some radical steps are taken. So which other states are doing this as well? Well, Planetizen reported last year about which states are rolling out VMT taxes. You can see this map included in that article. Most states are taking steps towards VMT taxes. And we'll talk you through this. The darkest blue are states that have an active program for passenger vehicles. In the slightly lighter blue, states have active programs for heavy vehicles. In the lightest blue, states have participated in VMT pilot program. The yellow are states that are researching and or participating in regional coalition, and only the green, the very small amount of green that you see there as of last year, are states that were not involved with VMT at that time. However, we can tell you that as of this year, some of those states are now involved. And as is always the case with anything related to Agenda 2030, governments are doing this in lockstep around the world, especially in the West. It's all happening at the same time. This is where the red flags are. This is an Australian news outlet, news.com.au, reporting just yesterday, petrol, diesel, hybrid or EV, what new road user charge could mean for you. A proposed road tax by the federal government could change how much Australians pay to drive, and some drivers are set to be hit harder than others. Of course, this is basically the exact same thing that we're seeing with the VMT. It's saying it may not stop at EV drivers, actually, and it talks about the fuel excise, what Australians are currently paying, and that money from the fuel excise goes towards building and maintaining the nation's roads, but EV drivers currently pay nothing. The Productivity Commission has warned that Australia's $12 billion a year fuel excise is in terminal decline as more drivers switch to low and zero emission cars. So essentially, the government is charging the fuel excise, which is a tax per litre or gallon, and fuel costs, of course, keep rising. The government tells people they must buy EVs to save the planet and save on rising fuel costs. And then when they do, all of a sudden the government isn't making as much money. So now they're going to charge people to drive EVs too. And that is where the mandate to charge per mile comes from. And it's the same in every country. No matter where you look, they're all doing it. The government has their hands in our pocket one way or the other. But it's more than just a money grab. It could, in the very near future, mean that your ability to drive could also be limited by your carbon footprint and your social credit score. With the rise of technology and the technology in cars, computer systems, maps, navigation, carbon footprint tracking, social credit scores, and self-driving technology, your ability to move freely would be heavily impacted and hindered to the point of where it's totally out of your control. This must be stopped dead in its tracks. We encourage people to look at this bill, look at the progress of VMT in your state or whichever country you're in, and put an end to it. Are you protected in a world where threats of EMPs, solar flares, 5G, and all types of EMF are interfering with our very existence? Escape the grid with Escape Zone, bringing you the highest quality Faraday technology for ultimate preparedness. Choose when and where your devices are detectable. Faraday bags protect you from EMPs, car theft, card and device skimming, identity theft, tracking, Bluetooth, and GPS. Choose from premium mobile Faraday bags, crossbody bags, laptop bags, and even women's handbags, or opt for the optimum protection with a ballistic backpack, combining cutting-edge Faraday technology with a ballistic 3A Kevlar for the ultimate protection and preparedness. Now you can also protect from EMF with their top-notch EMF beanies and blankets, shielding you from some of the most harmful frequencies in our environment. Whatever your needs are, Escape Zone has you covered, and their range is perfect for personal use, family use, or even as a gift for someone you truly care about. Visit escapezone.com/pulse and protect you and your loved ones today. That's escapezone.com/pulse. This in from the Gateway Pundit today. Whistleblower fired after exposing huge scam. Multiple Kentucky driver's license branch employees secretly sold driver's licenses to potentially thousands of illegal aliens for several years. Melissa Moorman worked at Louisville's NIA Center licensing branch through Quantum Solutions, a staffing agency contracted by the state to help staff regional officers for 2 years and 3 months before she was fired. Moorman was fired after interviewing with an investigator following her brave testimony about co-workers allegedly secretly selling licenses to illegal aliens for $200 each. The brave whistleblower said the driver's license scam was taking place between 4 to 5 times per day for at least 2 years. According to Moorman, the licenses for illegal alien scam took place in multiple Kentucky licensing branches. Moorman stepped forward and blew the whistle on fellow employees after she was approached by 2 of them who asked her to join their fraudulent scheme, which puts driver's licenses in the hands of, quote, undocumented workers without having to take the required tests to obtain a legal license. Local Kentucky news station WDRB has done an exceptional job of investigating and covering Moorman's story. The employees were being paid under the table, Moorman told WDRB News. I immediately let my supervisor know. The employees were being paid under the table, Moorman said. The undocumented workers would come into the office in groups. They were then provided with either permits or driver's licenses illegally, so they would bypass without even taking a test, the whistleblower claimed, adding that this happened up to 5 times a day. Take a look at what WDRB reported on this.
Didn't want this out. Fraud inside Kentucky's transportation cabinet. Licenses issued without a driver's test.
It is an ongoing WDRB investigation, and tonight we hear from a whistleblower who says coworkers used her login to pull off this scheme.
The employees were being paid underneath the table.
They say sometimes
I immediately let my supervisor know about it.
truth hurts.
Did you ever think that this would cost you your job?
No,
And for Melissa Moorman,
I was angry for a long time.
this is one of those.
It hurts me that I'm talking about this and I actually like where I was working at.
Times.
I came into the office that day, my computer was shut down. I was told to go to the front door. Detectives came in, they interviewed me. That was it.
Moorman says she was fired 3 months after she sent this letter to the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, blowing the whistle that workers at the NIA Center licensing branch were selling driver's licenses under the table to people who never took the driver's test.
Undocumented workers.
How did it work? What was going on?
The undocumented workers would come into the office in groups. They would provide them either permits or driver's license illegally. So they were bypassed without even taking the test.
How much?
$200 a person.
Up to 5 times a day, she says.
Was this an everyday thing?
Almost, yes.
Now, according to Moorman, the documents, including social security cards and birth certificates, were forged but appeared authentic. They were used to issue driver's permits and licenses to undocumented immigrants who never took the required tests. She says the scheme bypassed Homeland Security background checks, which she discovered after transactions were processed under her name when she wasn't at her desk. I started getting these emails saying, "Are you doing this?" Moorman recalled. "I'm not there for the day, so things start coming together." I'm like, what's going on? Take a listen to this part.
I found out it may have been going on for a couple of years before it was found out.
We're told it wasn't as simple as people getting state-issued driver's license or permits without taking the test. She says 2 of her colleagues at the NIA Center approached her with a business venture, asking if she wanted to get in on the scheme.
I was asked to bring certain customers in, and they are brought in to me without signing in. And you would scan their documents as usual.
Documents made to look legitimate, like birth certificates and social security cards, according to the letter she wrote to the state. But a key to pulling off this scheme was making sure the required Homeland Security screening was never run.
I start getting these emails saying, are you doing this? Are you doing this? Are you doing this?
And that's where it unraveled. She says those workers were using her login.
Well, in October of 2024, Moorman says she and her supervisor submitted a letter to KYTC detailing the fraud. The 2 workers she reported were terminated in late 2024, according to her lawsuit. In January of 2025, a detective interviewed her at work, and she says she was fired later that same day. Public records reviewed by WDRB News reveal that Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, or KYTC, mailed at least over 1,500 warning letters to drivers declaring their licenses were issued in error, were invalid, and must be surrendered immediately or face criminal prosecution. Yet, behind closed doors, the agency is withholding 2,300 additional records, shielding key details from public view under the cover of ongoing investigations. Although the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Kentucky State Police are involved in the investigation into fraudulent licenses for illegal aliens, Democrat Governor Andy Beshear is downplaying the scandal. In April of 2025, when asked if the scheme was linked to immigration, Beshear claimed he wasn't aware. That assertion is hard to square with the paper trail, including a whistleblower letter dated October 2024 and repeated WDRB inquiries in early 2025, suggesting the governor had ample opportunity to be informed months earlier. There are things that you can do to keep yourself fit, healthy, and protected in this world where it seems like attacks on our health come from all sides. Take charge of your health with the Energetic Health Institute, giving you the tools to lead a healthier, more balanced life, brought to you by Dr. Henry Ely and doctors just like him. True healers and physicians who are making people well successfully outside of Big Pharma. Visit myehialoha.org/#VFox and join their live conferences, virtual solutions summit, engaging Q&A sessions with their first-class, heart-centered professionals, and access all past event replays anytime, anywhere. You can also join the Healing for the Ages community led by Drs. Brian Ardis, Ed Group, Henry Ely, and Jana Schmidt, and become part of a movement dedicated to building a healthier future where health and healing come first. All of these invaluable resources are a whopping 30% off when you use code VFOX. Again, that link is myehialoha.org/#VFox with promo code VFOX for 30% off. Operation Mockingbird was a large-scale program of the CIA that began in the early years of the Cold War and attempted to manipulate domestic American news media organizations for propaganda purposes. This consisted of the intel agency feeding manufactured stories to the media with their cooperation in order to mold the news cycle to achieve their desired outcomes both domestically and internationally in order to gain the people's consent for whatever they're doing today. Many people maintain that Operation Mockingbird never ended, and in fact in recent years has expanded beyond just the mainstream media, but also includes a wide network of alternative media, including social media influencers and small independent broadcasters even. We certainly see that on platforms like X, for example, where there is a lot of cheerleading going on and very little critical thought being encouraged by many of these influencer accounts. You may see a lot of copy and pasted posts, virtually word for word, promoted by several accounts at the same time, certain buzzwords being repeated time and time again. And to give you a specific example of what that looks like, recall the celebrity social media campaign to mock quote-unquote anti-vaxxers, and then look at the coordinated response between the mainstream media and some of the largest social media influencer accounts, even in the conservative space, to those opposing World War III, attacking them in a similar manner. But nonetheless, the mainstream media appears to still be the main culprit. Deep state criminal James Comey ordered the FBI to leak classified info to the New York Times, assisted the outlet in creating news to frame Trump as a Russian asset. The article says internal FBI memos delivered to Congress this week by the Bureau Director Kash Patel exposed former FBI Director James Comey's process of sharing classified intelligence with media outlets such as the New York Times. Journalists John Solomon and Jerry Dunleavy published an article on Tuesday detailing the memos, explaining Comey used a conduit to leak secret information to the media in order to shape the phony Trump-Russia collusion narrative. Newly declassified documents show that Comey ordered the FBI to assist the New York Times in writing articles. Author and podcaster John Herold wrote on X, newly declassified documents show that Comey ordered the FBI to assist the New York Times in the writing of one of their articles. As part of the FBI's assistance, FBI officials Peter Strzok and Lisa Page were interviewed by the New York Times. And we'll just bring up that tweet for you from John Herold, and you can see there from the declassified documents highlighted was told to assist the New York Times with the April 2017 article. As part of the FBI's assistance, FBI officials Peter Strzok and Lisa Page were interviewed by the New York Times. Joining Hannity on Fox News, Solomon summed up his article by telling viewers Comey intentionally avoided using the FBI press office and leaked info to the press in order to sully Donald Trump's reputation. Columbia University law professor Daniel Richman told the FBI he was often contacted by Comey, who instructed him to pass along classified information to Times reporter Michael Schmidt. When Fox anchor Sean Hannity asked if he believes there could be legal consequences for Comey regarding the media collusion, Solomon said that Attorney General Pam Bondi may soon have the ex-FBI director and other hauled before the grand jury. He also noted the statute of limitations for sharing classified information is typically 5 years, but that it's extended to 10 years if the culprit did so willing and knowing, which clearly describes Comey's actions. Let's take a listen to some of this clip.
Well, what you find out is that James Comey decided not to work through the FBI press office when he wanted to change the narrative in Washington, burnish his reputation against attacks from Democrats, and try to sully Donald Trump's reputation. If you remember, Democrats were mad that James Comey let out of the bag just before the election that there might be some new evidence in the Hillary Clinton email scandal. Hillary blamed Comey for throwing the election. She blamed the Russians for throwing the election. She blamed everybody but herself for throwing the election for her. But Comey was trying to rehabilitate that. And so he had an intermediary, a Columbia law professor by the name of Daniel Richman, who the FBI confirmed and interviewed. And Richman said, yes, I used my relationship with a New York Times reporter named Michael Schmidt. He's one of the authors of the Pulitzer Prize winning package that President Trump is now suing over. And my goal was to improve negative stories about James Comey and to set a narrative, i.e. set the Russia collusion narrative. This guy worked around the official channels of the FBI press office. And at one point, the FBI noted, you met with James Comey. He gave you access to classified information. A short while later, you had a conversation with that New York Times reporter, and he ends up reporting something that appears to be classified. Did you do it? And he gives, I think, perhaps the most famous denial people will remember since Bill Clinton says it depends what the meaning of the word is when he tried to obfuscate whether he had an affair with Monica Lewinsky. He says, I can say, I don't think I confirmed the information. I can say with a discount that I didn't give him the classified information. With a discount means you got to give me some room. It's an extraordinary moment. The FBI clearly had strong suspicions that this was a potential backdoor for information, maybe classified information to get out to the media with James Comey's fingerprints on it. And they didn't go much further. They didn't put Comey before the grand jury, that we can tell. They didn't appear to put this gentleman, Daniel Richman, before the grand jury. And like Adam Schiff, as we told you last night, here they have an eyewitness whistleblower said, I was in the room when he authorized leaks of intel. These end up being a dead end again. And it's another reminder of a dual system of justice that the Justice Department had the last 6 years. These are documents that were never given to Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan confirmed that to me today. And we're just learning 8 years later, because of what Kash Patel turned over, that the FBI had all the evidence of how the false narrative of Russia collusion was spread across this country to the detriment of voters, to the detriment of President Trump's first campaign, and they did nothing about it.
Earlier this week, Solomon covered Democrat Senator Adam Schiff personally approving the leaking of classified information in order to frame President Donald Trump as an alleged Russian colluder. This is just one of many examples that confirms for us that Operation Mockingbird is still very much underway. And let's not pretend that alleged right-wing outlets like Fox News are necessarily immune from this either. We're not saying this story is false at all. Obviously, we have information that is being presented to the public here. We're simply saying that these tactics are used on all sides. What was once thought to be a tactic reserved for the left is now blurred between both aisles. And the tactic is to either feed you manufactured news or sometimes the truth in order to confirm your bias and keep you cheering on what you think is your team. What we would suggest, as with everything you see, hear, and read these days, is to do your own research, another term that has been mocked quite significantly in the past, and trust your eyes, ears, and instincts rather than the talking heads. We want to tell you about Trust IRA, bringing access to cryptocurrency wealth to real Americans. Their Animus AI trading platform works 24/7, analyzing market data and executing advanced crypto strategies that are beyond simply buy and hold, helping true Americans build impressive wealth. There's a reason their system was named the #1 crypto technology platform by Bitcoin Magazine from over 1,500 global competitors. Whether you're a teacher, truck driver, small business owner, or retiree watching inflation eat away your 401k, Trust IRA's advanced Animus AI gives red-blooded Americans the same advantages as those coastal elites. Right now, their clients are seeing over 250% returns on their investments, and with military-grade security, investments are protected by up to $200 million in insurance. So don't wait. Visit dailypulsecrypto.com and find out how they can help you join the financial revolution that's finally giving forgotten Americans access to the greatest crypto wealth opportunity in history. For a limited time, they're offering our viewers up to $2,500 in bonus crypto when you open an account. Crypto created 80,000 new millionaires last year. Why not you next? Visit dailypulsecrypto.com. That's dailypulsecrypto.com. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. We are very grateful to all of our viewers and supporters of this show. We air every single weeknight at 7 p.m. Eastern, and we plan on continuing to bring you the latest breaking news and the news they're keeping from you. We are backed by you, the viewer. That way we can always tell you the truth, no holds barred. The way to support us to stay truly independent is by shopping directly with our sponsors who make this show possible. Their links are in the description below. Make sure to follow Vigilant Fox on X at Vigilant Fox, as well as Substack to stay up to date with the latest breaking news. Follow Zeee Media on Rumble, where we also air this show each weekday and post our other deep dives. Follow at ZEE_media on X, and as always, all of our content is also on zeemedia.com. Join us every weeknight at 7 p.m. Eastern. Tell everyone about it, and as always, keep your finger on the pulse with the Daily Pulse. Good night.